Check it out.
You're listening to Fight Society with Damon Martin and Jeremy Loper.
Check it out.
Oh, what's up, kids? This is going to be a really interesting podcast, man. Breaking news.
It kind of worked out. We were supposed to do the show yesterday.
Yeah.
And somebody was in our podcast studio. So we had to delay a day.
How about we share a podcasting studio? We broadcast live from the WRKZ-FM production studio in Columbus, Ohio. It's the hard rock radio station where I do my morning radio show, Loper and Randy in the morning. It's basically right next door to where I do my normal radio show, but we share with these guys that do a weekly plant radio show. It's called Plant Talk, which is, I have no fucking idea how this show is huge, but it's on in so many markets, and we're a podcast. I don't get it.
Plant Talk.
Yeah, how are we? First of all, I feel like I could host Plant Talk.
Plant Talk.
It's going to be a medicinal episode, but we're going to host Plant Talk, all right?
That's just such a random... I mean, more power to him. Somebody's listening. That's all that matters.
Actually, Zuffa just bought that show and hired Uriah Faber and Snoop Dogg to host it. Sorry, Plant Talk is gone now.
Plant Talk is now Snoop Dogg's new podcast.
Let's get it out there. Damon Martin. I'm Jeremy Loper. You can follow us on Twitter at Jeremy Loper, at Damon Martin. Same for Instagram. Hit us up, follow us, and get the latest on Fight Society. But let's just break out of the gate. Jon Jones, once again, is popped for a hot piss test from USADA. So a steroid violation possibly. And last night, it was kind of sketchy. TMZ was reporting that he was stripped of the title. I mean, I thought that was kind of bold of them to make those accusations. But what have you heard at this point?
Well, basically, what we know for sure is July 28th was the test, the day before the fight. It was taken after the weigh-ins.
Yeah.
And
okay, so after the weigh-ins. So this is before the fight even starts.
Before the fight even starts. Test is taken. It comes back now that it was positive for turinabol, which is an anabolic steroid. Turinabol is a steroid that was actually discontinued numerous years ago. Turinabol was the steroid that was involved in that East German Olympic scandal back in like the 70s and 80s, or whatever it was, like when they were still doing a thing. So Turinabol's been discontinued. It's like Ludes. They've been discontinued, but it's still on the black market. So like people find it in tainted supplements all the time. Like it's just a dirty steroid. And so like people find it. So it's possible that it could be from a supplement, something like that. But long story short is he tested positive for turinabol steroids. He's been provisionally suspended. The title hasn't been stripped yet because they have to let part of this process play out with USADA. I got a statement last night from Daniel Cormier. Obviously, he's just kind of like a wave of emotions because, he had kind of just started to settle in with the loss to Jon Jones. And now he's being told that the fight's, chances are the fight's going to be overturned. In these situations,
so there's no doubt that this happened. I mean, like I want to clear up any speculation. Yeah. Like, does he have any sort of hope at all? I know, Jackson's released a statement hoping that this was going to be some sort of tainted supplement.
Well, tainted supplement. Well, so here's the deal: when USADA doesn't release this kind of information without being pretty sure about the testing, obviously. And they'll request them to be sample tested, but it's the same sample. They just split it into two parts, so it's going to come back positive. I've never seen a B sample come back not positive from USADA. So it's going to come back solid. So at that point, it's up to Jon Jones and his team to try to figure out where the steroids came from. If he's claiming he didn't actually use them, knowingly use them, they're going to say it came from a supplement. Now that's not unheard of because there are a lot of tainted supplements with turinabol. That's not uncommon. The problem is that Jon Jones is going to have is he's already used this excuse once before. When he got suspended last year for UFC 200, he tested positive for two different drugs that are typically used in a post-steroid cycle.
Right.
They proved that it was from that erectile dysfunction drug that he bought off the internet, and it was from, I want to say, Mexico. And it was
they're like these dick pills. They're
it was a black market.
Like Rhino 9000.
It was like a black market erectile dysfunction drug, and that was tainted. Now, again, I'm not saying he's a cheater. So he did that. They proved that it was from those pills. He got a year's suspension.
And let me tell you something. It's not out of the realm of possibility that I've taken one of those before. And, I've heard other people talk about them. And we're sponsored on my radio show by this place called The Lion's Den, right? So they have that stuff.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, do you want to try one of these? And I tried it. And you could sword fight. You could definitely sword fight with your wiener. So I see the upside, especially if he's doing cocaine and stuff like that has adverse effects on your wiener. I could definitely see him going for one of those. And that, to me, is not a big deal. It sucks that, that he didn't do the research to make sure there was nothing in it the first time. But this, when you started to name like specific steroids, and this started to come out last night. I was following your feed, of course, Damon. And I'm looking at this going, we didn't hear all this the last time. We just heard tainted supplement, and then the erectile dysfunctional stuff came out later.
Yeah.
But you are naming Trinibol. I mean, like, we didn't say this the last time.
And so here's the thing about that. And this is what I said, this is what I've been saying, in my head since this happened. I talked to a couple people last night. When you're Jon Jones, and you're already under a microscope from a year suspension that just came up in July, I mean, literally weeks ago, you better be scientifically testing all of your supplements to make sure there's nothing in them. Like, yes, it's going to be expensive, and yes, it's going to be a pain in the ass.
All of them, Damon, we like to party.
Yeah, you better test everything. So the tainted supplement excuse will not fly this time. I guarantee it.
No, the world's over it, man. Like, I was sitting at Jersey Mike's Subs with my wife when I saw you tweeting about it for the first time, and I couldn't believe. I mean, you were so on top of the situation; it was ridiculous. And I'm sitting there going, I literally said in front of everybody, I go, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And the woman goes, "You wanted a club, Mike's way." And I go, No, I'll take the sandwich, but Jon Jones. Are you with me on this, lady?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it's one of those things where you just shake your head and you say it's unbelievable, because Jon Jones, when you look at Jon Jones from that fight, he did everything right after the fight. He won the fight. He finished the rivalry with Daniel Cormier with a knockout. There's no better way to close a rivalry than to do it that way. There was no controversy. There was no decision. He knocked him out. He closed the door on that rivalry. And afterwards, Jon Jones said everything right. He paid tribute to Daniel Cormier, so we should all hold him in high esteem. His whole career doesn't come down to this one fight.
Right.
He's a good role model, and I hope we can put this rivalry behind us. Like, all the things you want a guy to say in that moment, he did. Like, in that moment, I was like, this is the Jon Jones we've all been waiting for. This is the Jon Jones that's grown up. He's learned his lessons. He almost had everything taken away from him.
Yes, he did.
And now he's back. And then to have this situation come up, you have to shake your head and just say listen, here's the reality of the situation, what he's looking at. This is a second-time offender. Now, even if they prove it was a tainted supplement, which, again, very well could happen. Turinabol is a dirty drug that is out there in the supplement market. And I say this all the time. The supplement industry is not regulated. It is a dirty, dirty business. So you better know who you're getting in bed with when it comes to your supplements before you take them in the first place. That being said, a second offense, chances are Jon Jones is looking at a minimum of a 2-year suspension, because he already had a
minimum.
Minimum.
And what's the maximum?
The maximum, he could be looking at 4 years off.
That's so crazy. Yeah. That's out of prime. He's 30.
Yeah. Now they could. When I say minimum, the minimum they could. I mean, this is USADA. They could technically, reduce him down to a year, or even that's their that's their prerogative to reduce the sentence. So technically, he could get a year again. They could say you're gone for another year with the tainted supplement. I just have a hard time believing that's going to happen. A second offense, literally a year later, they're going to hit him with a minimum of a 2-year penalty. In my opinion, I think, based on the drug Turinabol and based on his past history of them basically, I mean, if you read the transcription from the arbitration last year, when they gave him a year, they basically blamed him. They said, you need to be more responsible for what you're putting in your body. And that's why we're giving you a year. That's why guys like Yoel Romero and some other guys got 6 months and Jon Jones got a year, because they're basically saying you knowingly took this erectile dysfunction drug black market off the internet and didn't do any kind of research as far as what was in it. So we're going to give you a year penalty as like a punishment. So at this point, I have a hard time believing they're not going to give him a minimum of 2 years. And I think in this situation, because it was steroids, 1 year after his last suspension, we could be looking at 4 years. And that, Dana White said it last night, that could be the end of his career. That really could.
I mean, I don't like the way he looked in the Ofen St. Preux fight, this last Daniel Cormier fight necessarily in the beginning. I think that you saw a Jon Jones that had not been in the octagon. You saw him trying to work off that quote-unquote ring rust. You saw it. Everybody saw it, okay? He's just that damn good that he can pull off victories and have these huge layoffs. But eventually that starts to, you just don't get the results that you did when you were younger. Eventually all of that wears off, and eventually you become human. And I think what we're seeing right now is Jon Jones is going to be grasping for straws. I mean, like, this is going to be the real downfall of a great champion. Somebody tweeted me earlier, which I thought it's funny, but at the same time, it's kind of sad. they were talking about how, this thing with Jon Jones, it's terrible that we're never going to see him live up to his true fight potential. But goddamn, how good is that 30 for 30 going to be?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
that's like, obviously it's not the best time for jokes, but but it is true. He's going to be another one of these guys that has a tremendous, crazy story that's off the field or out of the ring.
Well, that's the sad part about this is that, and I've said this, I've said this numerous times, Jon Jones, in my opinion, is the greatest talent the sport has ever known. But when you have two situations, when I was actually arguing with fans on Twitter right after his win over Daniel Cormier, when I said he's the greatest of all time,
yeah,
and I said one of the things that does hamper because people are arguing with me, him versus Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
Then I said one of the reasons why Jon has a leg up, in my opinion, is Anderson got busted for steroids. Anderson got busted after a fight. You know what I mean? Like Jon Jones got busted before a fight, but it was proven to be the erectile dysfunction drug. Okay. I'm not saying he gets a pass. I'm just saying that, and I trust USADA to prove what it is he took and what it is he didn't take. In that situation, okay, I'm moving past it. And I said, Anderson Silva tested positive for steroids for a fight with Nick Diaz. That's a mark on his record. If you're comparing two guys together and they're both pretty awesome, what degrades one guy and what builds a guy, what builds one guy up? And the drug testing thing is a big deal. Now, with this question around Jon Jones, I mean, everything in his legacy becomes questioned. You know what I mean? Like, did he cheat his entire career and he just didn't get caught? USADA didn't come around until a couple years ago.
That's the first thing I thought, man.
You know what I mean? And that's the downside of this is that, no, it's not even a downside. It's because you do it to yourself.
It's the real side. Yeah,
you do it to yourself. And that's, like I said, I'm not here to convict Jon Jones because at the end of the day, we got to wait for the whole story to come out. We got to find out.
Do you think that there could be, though, Damon, and I don't want to be repetitive, but like, do you think there could be an excuse for what happened?
No, I mean, listen, Turinabol is a steroid. I mean, that's it. He didn't test positive. Like, when he tested positive for the drugs that are typically used after a cycle of steroids, you get the hint of something bad happening. This time he tested positive for steroids, Turinabol. Even if it's a tainted supplement, which, as I said, is possible, there's still no excuse. You're Jon Jones. You don't get leeway at this point. You don't get second chances at this point. That's why I said you better be, if you're taking supplements, and I'm not saying you shouldn't take supplements, although I personally don't believe in supplements that much. If you're gonna take supplement in that situation, and you're Jon Jones, you had the money to do it, you better be testing these products thoroughly.
The most.
You better be sending them to the lab and paying for. I know it's expensive, but you better be doing all that, because otherwise you run the risk of this happening. Because guess what? Now we're talking about a Jon Jones who potentially could be suspended for 4 years. And at that point, is that a career killer? Not necessarily. He's 30 years old. He could come back at 34.
Pretty damn close, man.
But it's pretty damn close. I mean, at this point, you know what I mean? 34, if let's just say hypothetically it is 4 years. I mean, the sport moves on without him. Daniel Cormier will not be around in 4 years.
Yeah, guys like Matt Brown are calling for him to have a lifetime ban. What do you think about that?
I mean, I'm with Matt on I think second-time offenders in a lot of ways. If you get busted for something 2 times, I think you should probably be banned for life. I just think that, we're in a
because
sport.
It's just too egregious, right?
Well, I had this conversation with Stefan Struve last week. I was talking to Stefan Struve. He has a fight coming up next weekend in Rotterdam, and he's a big, proponent of drug testing. And he said, and this is not something new that he said, but I'm just saying, like, this is just a conversation I recently had with him, and it's just kind of coming back up now, is that, he's like, we're not hitting a ball. We're not putting a ball into a basket. We're not, we're hitting each other with the intention of knocking each other out. In that kind of a situation, the penalties should be more severe because we are going out there to harm another human being, and, brain damage, all these things are real. Look at Daniel Cormier. He got knocked out. He didn't remember that. You heard that interview.
Yeah. No, he didn't even remember that happening.
He didn't remember 10 minutes of that fight. The last 10 minutes, like, he doesn't remember the interview with Joe Rogan. He doesn't remember getting knocked out. That's brain damage. That's what that is. That's a concussion. That's brain damage he suffered. And if it turns out that Jon Jones was on steroids, you know what I mean? That's exactly the problem. That's where you talk.
I did talk to my lawyer, and he said that would be really tough to prove that the steroids was the cause of the knockout. Which it doesn't seem like it would be, but like to physically prove that in a court of law, I guess would be really tough.
But we're not even talking about the court of law. I'm just saying, like, that's when you talk
public
about,
opinion.
When you talk about the penalty is what I'm saying. Like the penalty for what he's doing. Like
I see. Yeah,
the end result. You know what I mean? Like Daniel Cormier had brain damage from that fight. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he didn't remember 10 minutes after the knockout. All those kind of things. That's what we're talking about with
and that's yeah.
That's why we're so against performance enhancing drugs in this sport, is because of that in and of itself. You're going out there to harm another person. You're going out there to literally knock them unconscious, and you're on drugs. I mean, like I said, I'm not.
I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, think about it. It's like drinking and driving.
Yeah, it is. It is, really is.
Right?
It is, absolutely is. And you're doing it consciously, and you're out there and you can hurt somebody. And listen, like I said, once again, I want to make it clear. I'm not convicting Jon Jones because we don't know all the facts yet. He's got to go through the adjudication process.
Yet.
And there's a chance he could be exonerated. A very slim chance, I would imagine, next to nothing as far as the chance that he's exonerated. But like I said, even the accusation at this point is too much for Jon Jones. You know what I mean? Like, he's just one guy who can't do this. You know what I mean? He needs to be as squeaky clean as anybody in the sport because of all the things he's already done. And it's not, the cocaine, the hit and run, the drug testing from last year. I mean, all these things, and it just keeps piling up on him that you've got to be the most stringent. You've got to be the most on top of things.
I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, do you think that his camp is to blame at all? I mean, do you think that the people that he has around him, I mean, if this is all true and it truly is what everybody thinks it is, like, do you think that Greg Jackson?
No.
Do you think that Winklejohn, I mean, like, any of those guys have any sort of blame that they can take themselves?
No, I think if Jon wants to, if Jon finds out, let's just say hypothetically it's a tainted supplement.
Okay.
Then he needs to find out, who was giving him that tainted supplement. Was it a coach? Was it a manager? Was it a teammate? What, those kind of things. But ultimately, Jon Jones can place the blame where he wants personally. Professionally or from a standpoint of his career, there's no one to blame but himself. There's no one to blame but him. I don't care if and Greg Jackson, let me just say this, is one of the most honorable dudes in this sport. I love Greg Jackson.
And that's why I'm
just using this as an example. I don't care if Greg Jackson walked up to Jon Jones and handed him a box of supplements and said, "This stuff is awesome. You should take it." And Jon Jones took it, and that's the one that he got popped for. Doesn't matter. Jon Jones has to be responsible for Jon Jones. At this point in his career, he can no longer pass the buck at all.
Yeah. I mean, so when is his contract up?
He has multiple fights left on his contract.
But I mean, but for a UFC fighter, it doesn't even matter because it's not like you get paid if you don't fight.
Yeah, and the contract just gets extended. I mean, if he gets suspended for 4 years, his contract just gets extended for 4 years. I mean, that's all there is to it. That's what happens when you get injured in the UFC.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
When you get injured in the UFC, if they call you and say, "Hey, I got a fight to offer you," and they're like, "I'm injured, I'm not going to be back for 6 months," your contract gets extended 6 months.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, so but I understand that. Like, you know what I mean?
No,
like,
they get their allotted amount of because you're not doing it based upon performance of years. You're doing it based upon
that's why in a different situation like when Chris Cyborg was coming up at the end of her contract after her fight with Tanya Ebinger. Her contract ran out in October.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're going to get a new deal done with her. That's not my point. But hers was different because her contract was just, there is a time, you have so many fights in such a period of time for a contract. Hers was coming up to the end in October with like one fight remaining. So they either have to get her a fight before October or after October, her contract would expire. If they called her and said, "Hey, we have a fight for you in October," and she said, "I'm injured and I can't take the fight,"
right?
Then that 2-month window, let's just say hypothetically, would then get tacked on the end of her contract. But that's not the case in her situation. But in Jon Jones or any other fighter situation, yes, if you're injured and you're out, that just extends your contract based on the amount of time that you're actually out. So Jon Jones gets suspended for 4 years. He's under contract. He's just suspended for 4 years. I mean, when he decides to come back, if he decides to come back
and get his shit together, right?
Then they would just boom, your contract's reinstated. You know what I mean? Like that. It's the same thing like what George St. Pierre did. And George St. Pierre left. He still had fights left on his contract. He retired or quote unquote just went on a sabbatical.
Right.
When he came back, his contract is just reinstated like that. Now he worked out a new deal, of course, and that's a whole other story. But yeah, so he's going to stay under contract. So Jon Jones will not be able to like suddenly decide he's going to go to Ryzen and fight in Japan or something. You know what I mean? Like he's under suspension and he's under contract to the UFC. He's going to sit for a year, 2 years, however long USADA puts him on the shelf is how long he's going to be on the shelf.
Pretty crazy stuff, man. Once again, if you have not heard, Jon Jones has been accused of taking a tainted supplement, or at least
no, he hasn't. They said Jon Jones' statement says he's crushed by the news, and they're going to do some investigating into how this happened. He's saying tainted supplement. I'm just saying that I think that's probably going to be the route he's going to take, but doesn't mean it's true. I'm just saying all we know for sure Jon Jones tested positive from a test taken on July 28th.
Yeah.
And the drug that was found was turinabol, which is an anabolic steroid. That's all we know. Now, like I said, court of public opinion is going to crucify him. But I'm just saying that anything else, tainted supplement, we don't know tainted supplement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It could have been injections for all I know. But that's what we know for sure. It was a steroid. It was turinabol. It was July 28th was the test. And as of right now, Jon Jones is provisionally suspended pending the outcome of the USADA. And also, the California State Athletic Commission will have a say in this also because just like when Nevada, with Brock Lesnar and Jon Jones around UFC 200, they held a meeting and they ultimately suspended Jon the exact same 1 year. They'll have a say in this as well. And California State Athletic Commission, Andy Foster, they don't play. So, he could, like I said, I have a hard time believing he's going to get less than 2 years. I think in this particular situation, because it is a second-time offender, he could be looking at 4.
All right. What about this Frank Lester? Have you heard about this?
I did. I heard.
All right.
About
So
that.
he's at the Jackson Wink gym, and he's one of Jon Jones's training partners, and he believes this was all a setup. He said he was with Jon Jones at the time of the phone call when it came in at dinner.
Yeah.
And Jon Jones was blown away.
I mean, he's his teammate. Of course he's going to defend him.
Jon was devastated.
Of course he's going to defend him, and he should. He's his teammate. I get it. I don't fault him for that. You know what I mean? Like,
if they ever accused you of doing PEDs on our show, I would definitely I'd get your back, bro.
That's what I'm saying. I get it. I understand it. Did they set him up though? No. I mean, come on. This is all random testing. They're
like Damon juices before every show, just everybody knows.
Yeah, I do. I got the needle right over here. No, when they do the testing, it's all, they take the test and the test is done randomly. It's
Why don't they release it before the fight then? It's weird, man. What's up
time.
with that? So then you need to do it farther out, I think.
Well, no,
right?
they did. They did test him further out, but they have to. No one can blame USADA for this situation, and no one can get mad at them for the result coming out after the fight. They took the test on July 28th. There was no conceivable way they were going to get a test back in 24 hours.
It's always like this.
It's always, but they take the test for this reason. They take the test 3 weeks out, a month out, 6 weeks out, 2 weeks out, a day of. They do all this because they want to be stringent and they can't skip something. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks for Daniel Cormier and it sucks for the result of that fight that Jon was allowed to fight, but it's not USADA's fault. Actually, we should be applauding USADA for making sure they're still testing him right up to the fight, because otherwise we may not know this. You know what I mean? If they test him a week out, who knows? You know what I mean? Maybe it doesn't show up. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a steroid expert. I feel like one these days. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't fault them. It's not their fault that the test didn't come back in time, because if they tested him a week and a half before, which I'm sure they probably did, if you look at his drug testing history, they test him pretty constantly, like all athletes, it may not have come back. And when people say, well, why didn't it show up? If you've never seen the science behind performance enhancing drugs, and masking the drugs and all these different things that happen. Just because he passed the test 2 weeks before,
it's like a whole other sport.
Yeah, just because he passed the test 2 weeks before doesn't mean he's going to pass the test 2 weeks later, and that drug's not going to show up. You know what I mean? Like Anderson Silva, when he got busted. I don't know,
bro. I was at dinner, okay, and I saw Jon Jones. He was going to order dessert and then he didn't. Why not, Damon? Why do you not think so? I think it's because he's upset, bro.
Yeah. So. It's not good. All I can say is it's not good. You test positive for steroids, it's never going to be good.
One of my fucking heroes is gone. This is it, man. I mean, I think a lot of people feel this way. Listen, Jon Jones, everybody was, it got so bad for him for the younger fans, maybe they don't even remember. Like, when this all first started with Jon, everybody was against him, and then the public opinion then swayed back with him, and then everybody wanted to support him. That's why all this booing of DC, everybody was, was like, "What's going on with that? He's an American hero. Guy does the right thing." Because Jon, everybody loves a good story.
Yeah,
everybody loved Rocky. Everybody loves the come from behind story. Oh, you're gonna count Jon out? Not today. Everybody wanted to support him, and now with this, I got to say this is too much. I mean, for me personally, speaking only for myself, if this comes out 100% true, I'm done, man. I can't support you anymore.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. And
I mean, you're a great fighter, but
Well, that's what
What's
I said.
real? What's not real?
And that's why I said I feel sympathy for the situation for the people that support Jon. And I, like I said, I wouldn't say I'm best friends with Jon by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know him. I've interviewed him dozens of times. Jon's a nice guy, and Jon, I think Jon is deep down. I think he's a good dude, but.
When you interviewed him, did you get the sense that in the future he would be sorry for this?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering. Man.
Well, that's what. Like I said, at some point sympathy goes away. Is my point. At some point sympathy goes away. You can be the nicest guy in the world, but if you cheat and you get caught, that's it. I mean, there's just nothing. There's no other way around it. There's no justifying it.
Not a lot of wives will let you cheat 3 times.
Yeah, and so that's and that's why I said at some point you have to take some personal responsibility. Yes, it could be a tainted supplement. Absolutely, it could be. I know from doing research that this drug has shown up in other supplements. But the problem is, like I said, last time I'll say this: if you're Jon Jones, you can't take that chance.
So do you? This Jon Jones Brock Lesnar fight is a nightmare. There's no way. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But like. Even when he came back, if somehow Brock Lesnar's going to be over 40 years old at that point, but let's say it did happen, right? I mean, like the press around that event would be terrible.
Yeah, with Brock having tested positive, Jones testing positive, it would be bad.
Pride rules.
People would still watch. But yeah, I think at this point that fight is off the table. I mean, Jon Jones, like I said, he's looking at, I would say, a minimum of a year suspension, probably looking more likely between 2 and 4 years for a suspension. And like you said, Brock Lesnar's 40. He's a freak athlete, don't get me wrong, but he's not sticking around for 4 years. So.
Unless we're going to go pride rules. That's the only way to do this. Jon Jones notified a potential anti-doping violation, and we're following the story as the story does develop. Maymac happens this weekend. Everybody, I mean, like before this, that's all anyone could talk about. Like mixed martial arts, like, oh, really? Are there fights coming up? Like that, people are acting like they're blind. This Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather thing obviously has stolen the show.
Yeah, and so that's why today our first guest is actually one of the guys calling the fights for Sky Sports in Europe. A former UFC welterweight title contender, Dan Hardy. When I was doing my preview for this show, for this fight, I said there's 2 guys I want to get on the podcast. I want to get Dominic Cruz and I want to get Dan Hardy. 2 guys I truly respect.
I said Dan Hardy and the Iron Sheik, but we saw what happened.
Yeah, I vetoed the Sheik. I'm sorry. But yeah, Dan Hardy, smart guy, very intelligent guy, great analyst, and I think a guy that would be a candidate. Brian Stan left the UFC this week.
Yeah, dude. I would love Dan Hardy to get that now.
Yeah, Dan Hardy would be a great choice for that. So let's talk to Dan Hardy because he had some great insights, and he's going to be part of the team calling the fights in Europe for Sky Sports. So I was like, who better to break down McGregor and Mayweather than Dan Hardy? With one of the biggest fights of the year coming up just days away, Conor McGregor takes on Floyd Mayweather, and one of the people who will be calling the fight and helping to break down the fight for Sky Sports in England, one of my favorite people and one of the best analysts in the sport, former welterweight title contender Dan Hardy. Dan, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for taking the time. We really do appreciate it.
No problem, man. Always good talking to you.
So, Dan, let me first say, obviously it's got to be exciting. I mean, you've been working as an analyst for quite some time. How excited were you to get the call and, be able to actually work this fight card for Sky Sports?
I'm incredibly excited. I'm very surprised, to be honest. I'd not even thought about it. I've been doing a few things for different, betting companies and obviously other broadcasters, BT Sport, who show the UFC. A lot of people are obviously very interested in this. So I've been talking a lot about it, and I did an interview for Sky, and they approached me a couple of days after when they realised that they were going to be able to show the fight. I think it's great that they're diversifying their broadcast team. Obviously, they've got great experts in Johnny Nelson and Carl Froch for boxing, but this is a special event, and I think in order for it to be represented righteously, they need someone from the MMA community. I'm very fortunate to be in the position where I'm the guy they call.
Yeah, well, I think you do a phenomenal job. I know I've told you that numerous times. I was super excited to see you on this broadcast. So, Dan, let me start with this, because I know you do a lot of studying, for your broadcasting and mixed martial arts. How much studying have you already done for this fight? Because there's so many angles to this fight beyond just it being boxer versus mixed martial artist and just Conor against Floyd. I mean, there's so many angles to this fight, in my opinion.
There are, and that's what makes it so interesting. And honestly, I could spend all day, every day researching it. I've obviously been going through Floyd's record. I've watched the majority of his fights. All of the ones that are very relevant to this fight, I've watched them a couple of times at least, and I've made loads of notes. And I mean, I'm always been a boxing fan. I've always been a Floyd Mayweather fan. He's a fantastic technician. But with Conor, obviously, I'm so familiar with his career. I've called his fight before, and I'm so immersed in mixed martial arts that the Conor McGregor story kind of stayed into my subconscious. So all I do with Conor now is consume just new information, new stuff that's coming out, anything that's posted, any interviews, any videos, any photos, whatever's going on, I just consume that. Where with Floyd Mayweather, I went right back to Pretty Boy, and I've kind of started going through some of his older fights and watching his development and seeing how he handles guys that are, bigger than him, faster than him, unpredictable, don't show any respect for his boxing ability. There are so many interesting fights on his record that it's really a feast for me as an analyst.
Yeah. Let me start with this question, Dan, because in a lot of ways, being the representative of mixed martial arts, quote unquote, going into this fight, you're going to answer the same question a million times over. So I'm just going to get it out of the way right now. When you look at this breakdown, when you look at Floyd and you look at Conor, give me the way, in your opinion, that Conor can win this fight. Because let's be honest, he is a massive underdog. A lot of people are counting him out. I don't think I've heard one boxing analyst yet say they give him much of a chance to win. So from your expertise, tell me, how does Conor McGregor win this fight?
Okay, well, what I would say, if I was in his corner, I would say, look, Floyd's expecting you to get caught up in the moment. He's expecting you to be, to have a massive adrenaline dump, because obviously you handle the pressure very well in mixed martial arts. But in Floyd's mind, stepping into a Mayweather promotion is a very, very different thing, and he always commands that space, as he's expecting to on the night as well. So the counteraction to that is to actually not come out like a bull in a china shop and just do a Marcus Maidana and just throw 300 punches at him, because that's what Floyd's expecting. That's what he's almost banking on, because that's how he finds his way into the fight a little bit later on. As we know, as we've seen in the past, Conor does have somewhat of a drop-off because he is such a power puncher. And Floyd, going on the limited research that he can do, if he's done any, looking at McGregor's fights, he'll be looking for that moment where Conor's thrown his best punches and then Floyd starts to find his way into the fight. So what I do as an analyst, I look at the first approach, and then every time there's a counter, I reverse engineer it. And what it brings me to is for Conor to go, okay, first 4 rounds, I'm going to start off nice and steady. I'm going to command the center of the ring, and I'm going to show him that I'm the bigger man. I'm going to show him that I have no respect for his power. I'm not really bothered if he hits me too much, because I know he doesn't have the power to hurt me. And when I throw, I'm going to throw a lot of power into the shots that I throw. And I'm just going to hit whatever's there. I'm going to, give him 80% power. I'm going to hit his shoulders, his gloves, his arms, his body, whatever's available. If I can clinch him, I'm going to lean on him. I'm going to make him carry my weight. But I'm not going to fight with a ferocious pace like he did in the Diaz fights when he first came out and he was just chasing the knockout immediately, because that's how he plays into Floyd Mayweather's game plan. So first 3 or 4 rounds, I'd start to, I'd make Floyd realize that this is not a Floyd Mayweather promotion. This is very much a shared promotion, and Conor McGregor's coming in there as a legitimate contender. From that point onwards, then he needs to start picking up his pace. And if he decides he's going to go on the offensive, he's got to throw multiple punch combinations so he keeps Floyd on the defensive, because he's not necessarily going to outbox Floyd Mayweather, but he can outpunch him. There's been a few comments by Abel Sanchez. That's the name I'm searching for. Gennady Golovkin's coach. A quote that he mentioned was very interesting. He said he needs to punch. He needs to be in shape to punch constantly for 3 minutes. Now we know that Conor can't do that from the first bell. He can't maintain that over 36 minutes. So if he can start the first 4 rounds at a steady pace and then start to pick his pace up, he narrows that opportunity for Floyd to win the later rounds, because then there are fewer later rounds. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So instead of coming out like the aggressive fighter that Floyd's expecting and giving Floyd a hellish 4 rounds before he drops off and gets beaten up for 8, which is the safe money, if we're honest, I would be the smarter person in there. I would kind of take my time and force Floyd to come out of his defensive shell a little bit and maybe take a few chances early on in the fight, which he's not wanting to do. He's definitely not wanting to do that because he's a studier. He's the person that gets in there, and for those first 3 or 4 rounds, he allows his opponents to work, and he just pays attention to openings, and he watches and he studies. And even previous opponents have said this about him. They realized that sometimes in the early rounds they would throw a punch, and he would see the opening but not take it. He's registering. He's making notes for the later rounds. So the fewer later rounds where Conor's tired, the better. So starting off steady and then picking his pace up to a ferocious pace later in the fight would be my recommendation.
Yeah. To that point, Dan, one of the things that I've said numerous times, and you brought up Marcus Maidana, because a lot of people have said, that was a fight that kind of surprised Floyd a little bit when a guy, fought him a little dirty, or not dirty as in the gameplay, but didn't go in there and just try to outbox him. And I've argued that the way Conor McGregor wins this fight is he can't just try to outbox Floyd Mayweather, because that's playing into his game too much. It's like going in and trying to out-wrestle Daniel Cormier or trying to out-jiu-jitsu, Damian Maia. Could you do it? Potentially, but you're also playing into his game. Do you agree with that Conor can't just go in there and try to outbox Floyd Mayweather? He's got to do something a little different. He's got to, whether it's roughing him up, whether it's, the clinch, whatever it is, I feel like Conor just can't simply go out there and try to outbox Floyd Mayweather, because that's just not the way he wins this fight.
I totally agree. I absolutely agree. Floyd's unbeaten in 49 fights, and every single one of those 49 opponents that he's fought have been boxers. Now, Conor's not a boxer, and I really hope, and I don't think I give him enough credit to not have been, kind of bought into this and thinking he's a boxer, because he's most definitely not. Now, in the build-up to this, there's been a few times that Conor said things that point to a favourable mindset, you could say, where he said, I'm a fighter, I'm a real fighter, and he hints at the fact that Floyd's really only kind of playing at combat sports because he's focused on such a narrow skill set. So if Conor realises that his the strength of his presence in the ring is based on that unpredictability. Is based on the fact that he doesn't move like a boxer, that he doesn't throw like a boxer, that he doesn't stand in boxing range. I mean, you've got to think Canelo Alvarez is really, was almost in his prime when he fought Floyd. I mean, he's obviously excelled in the last couple of years, but Canelo Alvarez has always been a fantastic boxer when he's been on the world scene. And he stood him in Floyd's punching range and couldn't keep up with him. And he had youth on his side, and he had athleticism on his side. Conor can't step in and try and replicate what somebody else has failed to do in the past. It would be foolish to do it. He's got to embrace the things that make him special in this contest. And that is the covering distance very quickly, fighting outside of Floyd's range, throwing things unpredictably, and not showing... Like you look down Floyd's record, and there are certain performances that stand out. Obviously, the Marcus Maidana fight is one of those things. But Maidana came to the fight, and he brought one thing that troubled Floyd. That one thing was reckless aggression. Then you go a bit further down, and there are other people. Miguel Cotto, he brings toughness. Conor's got toughness. He's got that reckless aggression if he needs it. But then, you go even further back. I mean, I'm talking way back into his career. You look at someone like Emmanuel Augustus Burton, who brought that absolute disrespect of his power. Someone that would walk through his punches and still dance and play about and be disrespectful. If Conor can take elements of all of these people that have caused Floyd problems and somehow mold them into one individual, he can certainly cause Floyd all kinds of problems, because Floyd has to adapt to Conor. We can watch 49 fights of Floyd Mayweather, and we can study all of them, and we can see how he's developed as a boxer. There isn't a single bit of tape that Floyd can watch to see how Conor's a boxer, because he's not a boxer. So he needs to embrace all of the things that make him special in this contest, and that is the fact that he's not a boxer.
Yeah, I agree. One other aspect that's been a big part of this, Dan, is the psychological aspect of this fight. We saw it with Conor and Floyd going back and forth on that world tour. But one thing that Floyd said recently, and I understand it's an interview, and what guys say in interviews don't always mean how they're going to actually fight. But one thing he did say that, kind of perked up my ears a little bit was when he made the comment that, he doesn't want to go out there and fight a defensive fight because, he wants to make up for the Pacquiao fight. Now, maybe in his head, he thinks Conor is a guy he can could pick apart because Conor's not a boxer. But when you hear a comment like that, and again, I understand it's just an interview, he may not mean that, but when he says he's not going to go out there and try to fight a defensive fight, which is kind of the switch over from Pretty Boy Floyd to Money Mayweather, where he fought a much more defensive style with that shoulder roll defense and things like that. Does that, I want to say concern you, but does that play into Conor's favor? If he goes out there and actually doesn't just try to put on a defensive masterpiece and he actually gets aggressive, because that's where Conor has been at his best in his MMA careers, when he's counter-striking, when guys come after him and he just picks them apart.
Yeah, I don't think that Floyd, particularly in the early rounds, is going to come out and be any more aggressive than he normally is. I think the way he sees Conor is he's going to be aggressive early, which means that the first half of the fight will be entertaining because it will be Floyd showing his excellent defensive skills as Conor punches himself out. And then the second half of the fight is where Floyd then makes an example of Conor by outboxing him when Conor's tired. So I think that's what Floyd's talking about. He doesn't want to be the defensive boxer, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to start defensive. You know, the thing that will stick out, if that's the way it plays out, if Conor had four strong rounds and then Floyd dictates the pace for 8 and beats him up, people won't really remember the first 4 rounds. They'll remember how Floyd lit him up. So I think he's too smart now to revert back to the pretty boy mindset where he's going to go and try and knock him out. And the other thing that supports that is the fact that, well, he's opted for 10-ounce gloves, even though there's all this hot air about going down to 8, which is never going to happen. And the fact that he's had so many hand problems. I mean, in fights when he's gone out there to try and knock people out, and he's failed, he's also hurt his hands in the process. And we can't question Conor's chin. I mean, he takes a tremendous shot, and the only way I see Conor getting TKO'd here is standing against the ropes. You know, is if he punches himself out early in the fight and he's leaned up against the ropes in the 7th, 8th, 9th round. His hands are by his waist. His mouth's open. He's breathing, and Floyd is just peppering him with 60% power punches, and the referee just steps in because he's seen enough. I don't see a point where, I mean, Floyd's not a murderous puncher. He never has been. You know, you look down his record and you see the majority of his knockouts and technical knockouts, most of them technical knockouts, were at super featherweight. I mean, you know, you're talking what's that? 135, maybe even lighter than that. Like Conor's not been as light as that since he was 130. The limit's 130 at super featherweight. Conor's not been 130 since he was about 12. You know what I mean? He's a big man. He's a big athlete. He was too big for featherweight, and the limit was 45. The ideal weight for him is 155 to weigh in, so he can walk in the ring in the octagon at 164. I mean, that's a comfortable weight for him. I think he gained weight to 168 for the Diaz fight. So I think I just don't think Floyd feels like he has the power and the weight and the strength of hand to really hurt Conor. So I don't think he will throw with the investment to try and spark him with one punch.
Yeah. When we also talk about the psychological aspect of this fight, I mean, I feel like, you know, it kind of reminds me of the days when Anderson Silva was on top of the world. And it seemed like a lot of fighters went in there. I won't say that. I'm not saying they went in there defeated. They didn't go in there to beat him, but there was always this aura around Anderson Silva that when you went in to fight him, it's like, you know, you were already down on the scorecards a little bit because Anderson Silva was such a prolific finisher. And I feel like maybe some guys did have that aspect with Floyd Mayweather in the latter part of his career. After he beat De La Hoya, it kind of became that point where he was the best and everyone knew he was the best. And it's almost like they approached the fight in a certain way and maybe they were a little bit beaten, you know, going into the fight. Conor has such confidence, and I truly believe he believes in himself that he can win this fight. I mean, can that help him in this fight? That confidence and that attitude that, you know, he doesn't care that he's fighting Floyd Mayweather. He doesn't care that Floyd's 49-0, and he certainly doesn't care that, you know, that Floyd is the favorite.
Absolutely. There's definitely strength in that mindset. There are a lot of positives coming into this for Conor. One is that he's done the unbelievable. He's managed to get Floyd Mayweather to accept a fight against Conor McGregor. Now, I would imagine that Conor a few years ago was a cocky little kid that walked into a boxing gym in Dublin and said, "I'm going to fight Floyd Mayweather one day," and everyone laughed at him. You know, So he comes in with the strength of the mindset that he's achieved the unbelievable already by just getting to the ring in the first place. The second thing that played out during the World Tour was that Floyd Mayweather is used to dictating the way that these things go down. He's used to welcoming his opponents into a Mayweather production. So you're on the stage, on Floyd Mayweather's stage. You're on Floyd Mayweather's payroll. You're fighting. You're fighting alongside the referee that Floyd Mayweather's chosen. You know what I mean? It's like everything is geared towards the whole situation being absolutely controlled by Floyd, and that is the person that he is. He is a control freak, and he's mastered the art of controlling in the boxing ring and every aspect around the outside, including all the promotion. Now, what I think he often relies on, particularly after the De La Hoya fight, as you pointed out, is that feeling that when his opponents walk into the ring, they're like, oh, damn, I'm fighting Floyd Mayweather. Like, this is all of a sudden a massive deal, far bigger deal than I had anticipated when I was in training camp. And now the shocks hit me, the adrenaline's hit me, and I've kind of froze up and I'm going to fight at Floyd's pace because I don't know what else to do. That happens a lot of the time with some of the best boxers of all time. But what played out in the World Tour, and I think what Floyd realized in the World Tour, is that that's not the case at all. When Conor walked on that stage, he owned that stage. When Conor picked up the mic, he owns the mic. And every time Floyd had something to say, Conor made him look silly. And Floyd knows that, regardless of how confident he is in himself and how much in control he feels in the fact that this is his promotion, he's going to make a load of money out of it. He realizes that Conor has no real respect for what Floyd's achieved. And a part of that is based in the fact that it doesn't really matter what happens, because at the end of the day, Conor's still the best fighter, and that's ultimately what Conor's most interested in. There's that safe in the knowledge that, yeah, you might be able to beat me at boxing, you might be able to beat me at tennis or at chess or at whatever, but in a fight, you don't stand a chance.
Yeah, there's so many angles to this fight, and I think that's what makes it so intriguing. I mean, Floyd coming back from retirement, 2 years away, and I said this in the lead up to the fight. I said, being away for 2 years is one thing. Being away for 2 years when you're retired is a different thing. I mean, there's just so many angles that you can take on this fight, and I love it. And I know a lot of people are discounting Conor and saying he has no chance, but I am seriously intrigued by every aspect of this fight, and I truly believe, and it's not because I'm an MMA guy, I truly believe Conor has a chance to shock the world. And I think it's more than just like he caught Floyd with one punch and he finishes him. I legitimately think Conor has a shot in this one.
I think it would be unreasonable to think that he's not, and it surprises me that there are so many intelligent people out there that are just writing him off. Obviously the safe bet is Mayweather by decision, but that's always the safe bet. I mean, you look at odds in any of his fights, and that's the one that returns the least money because, it's a Floyd Mayweather fight. Of course he's not been by this. That's kind of his MO. So it's different in this one because, Conor's an unpredictable element. He's stepping in from outside of the boxing world. He's even been referred to in the boxing news as the barbarian at the gate, which I love. I think he's a fascinating perspective from the boxing community because there's an intrigue there. Yeah, they're writing him off, but what's interesting is that, if Floyd Mayweather was talking about crossing over to mixed martial arts, we're not interested because he's going to get James Toned, because of course he is. There's no other outcome. There's no other way that could go down. But Conor stepping into the boxing ring, now there's a question, and people want to know what the answer to that question is. And no matter how convinced people are they know the answer to that question, they still will admit that there's enough of a question for the fight to take place.
Yeah, I agree. Dan, I can't wait for this one. I know I can only imagine how excited you are. I'm sure you're going to be breaking down a lot of video and footage over the next couple of weeks. I know you're going to be excited to be a part of the broadcast, which is why I'm not officially asking you for your prediction because obviously you got to work the broadcast, so you got to stay above board with that. But I look forward to hearing your call. Congrats on all the success, man. I know I tell you this a lot on Twitter, but just in all seriousness, you've just done a fantastic job in your analyst work, and I just want to say I'm really excited that you're going to be part of this broadcast. I think you're going to bring a very unique and really great perspective to this fight, and I cannot wait to see this August 26th. I know everyone's excited. I'm sure you're just over the moon ready to do this thing.
Absolutely beside myself. I will be giving it my every effort, and I will be trying to do my best out there on the mic. Yeah, very privileged to be a part of it, and always good talking to you, my friend, and thank you for your kind words.
All right, well, I appreciate it, Dan. We'll talk to you after the fight. As I said, I'll preview it now. We're going to have you on after the fight to kind of break down everything that happened, but look for you on Sky Sports Saturday night, August 26th. Dan, thank you so much again for the time, and we will talk soon.
Thank you, my friend. Speak to you again.
Bye-bye.
Awesome conversation. It's Loper and Damon Martin. Check us out. You can always communicate with us on any social media. Instagram. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook. We're everywhere. Yeah, we have a Fight Society page on Facebook you can like.
We do.
Yeah, just check us out. Use the hashtag Fight Society, and then you can hit us up individually on Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. At Damon Martin, at Jeremy Loper. So, what do you think is going on here with this headline that the NSAC had to explain why the UFC co-promotes Mayweather? What's going on with that?
It's if I'm not mistaken, it's something to do with the fighter being paid. It has to do with Conor being paid because Conor's under contract to Zuffa, and Zuffa's the one technically paying him for the contract. So I think that's
Bob Bennett is the guy's name from the Nevada Athletic Commission.
Executive director. Yeah.
Did he take Jeff's place? Is that who took over?
No. Bob Bennett took over for. Oh my God, I'm trying to remember who it was.
Bob Bennett sounds like a car dealer.
No,
Come to Bob Bennett Chevrolet.
No, it was Keith Kaiser was his name.
Keith Kaiser.
Yeah, Keith Kaiser was there before, and then Bob Bennett took over. Jeff Nowitzki's never been commissioned. Jeff Nowitzki was the guy who was like the special prosecutor for the whole with the government when they took down Lance Armstrong.
Hey, everybody. Bob Bennett, Jeff Kaiser in the morning.
Bob Bennett Chevrolet.
Bob Bennett Chevrolet, Jeff Kaiser. I've been in a roll after myself.
Yeah, so
it's a crazy world, my friend.
Yeah, so we have in a few minutes we're going to talk to Artem Lobov, who is Conor's teammate, and he's going to break down some of this drama between Conor and Paulie Malignaggi, which I'm sure you saw yesterday. They got into a confrontation.
So it was so funny. I saw a meme. They said fan gets arrested for rushing into Conor's face, and it's a picture of security pushing back Malignaggi.
Yeah, I said this yesterday, and I stand by it. I did SiriusXM, which, by the way, I was so geeking out. They had me on SiriusXM yesterday to talk, and I was on the show, the new show. There's a new show called MMA Tonight with AJ Hawk, Ohio State great AJ Hawk. He's doing a MMA radio show now.
Oh yeah,
and like in my head, I'm geeking out because AJ Hawk is interviewing me, and like
yeah, that's awesome.
You know my Ohio State love, so
no doubt,
we're in Columbus, Ohio, for Christ's sake. So
that's sick.
So I was definitely geeking out about that. But we were talking about this on the show, and I said, they were asking me, do I think Paulie Malignaggi should still work the broadcast? And I said no. And listen, I like Paulie Malignaggi as a broadcaster. He's a tremendous analyst. But at this point, when you're getting into a fight week confrontation with one of the guys you're supposed to be calling the fight for, you're not unbiased. You're not objectionable. You clearly have an opinion. And in my opinion, Paulie's angling for a fight with Conor. You can't be involved with that. So I don't want to cost the guy's job. I'm not saying the guy should be fired. I'm just saying don't put him on this broadcast because the fight's not about him. It's about Floyd and Conor. That's what I want to talk about right now. I want to talk about Floyd and Conor. I want to get our picks, and I want to make our predictions as we close out the show today.
So you really think that Paulie Malignaggi thinks that he has a shot to box Floyd Mayweather, or obviously they're not going to do
to box Conor McGregor?
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. He's already said he would come out of retirement for it.
Oh, no, but so that's supposing Conor loses to Floyd.
Yeah,
because if he beats Floyd, why would he wouldn't even speak to Malignaggi?
No, if he loses to Floyd, Malignaggi would still be an attractive fight and it would still make a lot of money.
Paulie's super pissed. You know what I'm saying? Or this is all a big work for the fight. I mean, because it does make it a little more sexy, doesn't it?
Well, that's the problem.
It draws more interest, right? I mean, in Paulie,
to a point.
Remember what was the fighter that? Remember the girlfriend thing? Yo, that's my side piece. That's my side piece. Remember the Paulie Malignaggi promo that he cut? And he is so hilarious in that segment. If you guys have never seen that before, it's him explaining one of the fights that he had against his opponent. The guy supposedly stole his girlfriend, and he was making the point that you could take my side piece. The side piece don't mean it's just amazing to listen to him talk about a side piece. It's like he's at Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah, but the problem is that, like I said, at the end of the day, this fight is about Conor and Floyd, and with Paulie being involved, you're making it about Conor and Paulie, and that's not. I mean, listen, the people who are going to buy the pay-per-view have probably already made up their minds right now whether or not they're going to buy the pay-per-view on Saturday night between Floyd and Conor, but there's still a fight to be had. If they want to have this confrontation and they want to have this moment, they want to have this building towards a potential fight, great. Do it after Saturday night, though. You know what I mean? I understand they're building the blocks for it already. I get it. But we've already done that. We've done that for weeks now. It doesn't need to happen on Fight Week, is my point. Fight Week is about Conor and Floyd. Let's get through this fight, and then we can worry about Paulie Malignaggi. And him, he said he went up to confront Conor's manager, is why he did it. But Conor's manager is standing right next to Conor. What did he think? Conor's going to be like, oh no, he knew hold on.
No,
let me step out of the way and let you guys have a meeting. Sorry about that.
Paulie took a beating in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, they ran him through the mud. I don't think, even in boxing, I don't think he's seen a promoter as aggressive as Dana White.
Yeah, and
I mean, Dana White comes at you. Like, come at me, bro. No, okay, he will. I mean,
but that's my point. I like Paulie. Paulie's really good at his job, but at this point,
I think so too, man.
But at this point, somebody brought that up to me. They're like, because Daniel Cormier called Jon Jones' fight against Ovince St. Preux, and obviously, he said some words afterwards. But I said, great, that's fine. But Daniel Cormier didn't go up and get into a Fight Week confrontation with Jon Jones. He didn't interrupt Jon Jones's media scrum to come in there and get face to face with him and confront him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Paulie did. And that's what I said. You can't, it's just, because what's going to happen on the broadcast is this. They're going to talk to Paulie about Conor, and he's going to talk about their sparring session, and he's going to say, they're going to say, why did you, what happened on Tuesday? I don't want to hear about that right now. This is about Floyd and Conor. I don't want to hear about Paulie Malignaggi's beef with Conor. If Conor loses, then we can talk all day about Paulie Malignaggi and Conor McGregor happening at some point in the future in a boxing match. But right now, I don't care about Paulie Malignaggi. I care about Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. This is the biggest fight of the year, and somehow this guy has kind of wedged his way into the conversation.
Well, I mean, I think that Dana White and Conor McGregor had something to do with that too, and even Conor, like the way he just kind of dismissed him was, I mean, I thought that was the right thing to do, man, because like in that situation, you can't pay too much mind to him, because then everybody's going to be like, oh well, you see it firsthand. Conor's distracted; he's not even concentrating on Floyd.
Well, here's the thing with Conor too. Also, you have to remember, Conor. When this whole thing happened, when Paulie flipped out and started doing million interviews, he put out that statement, "I left Conor's camp," blah blah blah. Conor didn't say a word. Conor didn't put out a tweet. Conor didn't put anything on Instagram. Conor didn't respond. The only time Conor responded was when someone directly asked him at that media day he did last week, and they said, what's going on with this Paulie situation? And that's when he erupted and said, it's concussion talk and all that stuff. And he was barely stumbling out of the car, getting out of the sparring session and stuff. That's when he addressed it, but until then he didn't. If Paulie was really annoying him, he would have said something. Connor's a social media guy; he knows.
Oh no, totally. But I will say Conor has become a little more untouchable during this fight. You know what I'm saying?
But he should be.
And he exactly. But I'm just saying, like before, you could kind of call him out and maybe get a response. But I think that Conor he's upped at a level, because now that opponent, Floyd Mayweather, already beaten this guy. Why do I need to talk to that guy?
That's why I think Conor Conor will address Paulie, but ultimately if Conor beats Floyd Mayweather, Paulie just might as well just forget that he's ever going to get anywhere near Conor McGregor at that point, because if he beats Floyd Mayweather, no offense to Paulie Malignaggi, but what are you gaining by fighting a guy who's been retired for a year and a half off of a loss, if I'm not mistaken? Paulie's coming off a loss at the end of his career. What do you gain from that?
My take on this is I think it's a bit of a work, too. I think that Paulie's in on it a little bit. I think that he's doing a little trash talking to draw more attention to the fight, because I think there's only so much trash talking that Conor and Floyd can do. They did so much leading up to this fight on that world tour, but I really believe in the promotion machine that is a component added with Paulie Malignaggi there, because you get Brendan Schaub. He's able to talk about this a little bit because he's doing some of the setups with Paulie Malignaggi. So, I mean, he knows him. He can have him on his show. The drama gets stirred up. Now you have Conor, you have Dana, you got everybody talking about it. It's another guy, but he represents the boxing world, and he'll also be a voice on Fight Night, as you pointed out.
Yeah, like I said, I want to talk about Conor Floyd, but if we want to hear a perspective on this, I asked Artem Lobov, who was at the sparring session, who was one of the sparring partners. Now, obviously, he's one of Conor's best friends, and he's Conor's teammate. So, of course, he's going to be a little biased, just like we're talking about Paulie being biased. But I asked him about the situation with Paulie Malignaggi, what happened, what was the sparring session like, and also asked him how Conor's doing in training. So, let's talk to Artem Lobov, see what he had to say, and then we come back, we can give our final picks and predictions.
Oh, I can't wait.
For Mayweather-McGregor.
Artem Lobov and DM one-on-one.
Artem, what's up, buddy?
All good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me, man. I appreciate it.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good.
So, how is everything out in Vegas, man? Obviously, time is ticking away until Conor gets back in the ring, and I know you've been out there and helping him out.
Yeah, it's been great. The camp has been very good. I say it almost feels like all the previous camps have been in preparation for this one, because we had a chance to get everything right, and now this time everything has just gone very smooth and perfect, and Conor is in great shape and ready to do the business August 26th.
Yeah, you've been sparring and training with Conor for years right now, but kind of give me a sense of how it's been different helping him, for a boxing match. I mean, obviously you guys have sparred, dozens of times, but how has it been for you helping him get ready for a boxing match this time around?
Well, obviously it's different. That it's a different sport. We had a lot more sparring partners this time than we normally would have. And there was obviously a lot more sparring as well than we would have. We almost kind of have gone back to the old way, the way it used to be, where, spar a lot more. And because the best way to get good at something is by doing it. So, if you're able to spar safely, if you're able to spar and not take any damage, then why not do more of it? The only reason to not spar as much as if you're getting caught with shots and you're taking damage, then of course it becomes dangerous. But Conor doesn't really get hit, doesn't take any damage, so we were able to implement a lot more sparring into this camp.
Yeah. How has it been, welcoming some of the new folks into the camp? I mean, you guys have such a close, tight-knit crew with yourself and obviously Owen Roddy and John Kavanaugh and some of the other guys, but you brought in some other, training partners like Tiernan Bradley. Obviously, you brought in Deshaun Johnson, some other people. I mean, how has it been kind of opening up the camp a little bit to some new people, considering you guys are a pretty close-knit team?
It's always very good to bring in new people for sparring, people that you don't know, because it makes it a lot closer to that fight feeling that you get. When you don't know the guy, you have to just start your sparring, and you just have to break him down within that spar and defeat him. And that's exactly what we did. That's why we brought in all these new sparring partners for Conor to really, challenge Conor and give him that fight feeling. And he's done great.
Yeah, I know obviously, and we're going to talk about your fight career in a second, Artem, but I know that, you took time out to make sure you came to Vegas and obviously, started the camp in Ireland with Conor. How important was it for you to be there with Conor, for this kind of a fight? Because I heard the rumors that, you basically kind of set aside your own career for a little while, so you could help him get ready for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Conor is always there for me. He has been there for me from the start. He's the reason I am in the UFC, and I never hide that. So how could I not be there for him? How could I not help him? In the most important fight of his life. So yeah, I had to turn down a fight against Andre Fili that I was offered on sort of a short enough notice, but that was a no-brainer for me. That was a very easy decision that I had to make there. And it's been good. I'm delighted that I have done that, because not only am I helping Conor, but this is also great for me. I had a chance to work on just my boxing skills. It's not often as an MMA fighter you get a chance to just concentrate on a certain skill set. You always have to sort of go back and forth between all the other disciplines. Whereas now I was able to concentrate on boxing, which was great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Artem, there's a lot I want to talk to you about with the fight with Floyd Mayweather, because you've been right in the thick of it. But let me just get this out of the way right now since we're talking. Give me your sense of this whole situation with Paulie Malignaggi coming into camp and sparring with Conor a couple times, then leaving, and the whole controversy. We saw the videos that came out last week. Dana White released them. Dana White has said numerous times now that, it was a pretty one-sided affair. You were there, Artem. You're one of the guys kind of on the inside. As much as you want to talk about it or can talk about it, can you give me a sense of, what your impression was of Paulie Malignaggi for those couple of times he came into camp?
No, I honestly feel that he was just not able to take it. He got beat up in sparring, and he just wasn't able for it. He then saw a chance. He didn't want any more of this. And he just saw a chance for escape, and he took it. He saw the door and he ran for it, and then came out with all this stuff saying that, I was mistreated and this and that. But the truth is, he just got slapped around, and he didn't want any more of that, and that's why he left. He tried to make up stories about the house being bad and the conditions being bad. Look, they were put into a nice enough house. It wasn't a mansion or anything. It wasn't, like a luxury or anything, but it was a very good house. Livable house. They were given a nice car. They were provided with 3 meals a day from a restaurant. They didn't even have to cook. They weren't even have to cook. They were provided with meals from a restaurant, and they were all paid. So look at the other sparring partners. They're all happy. They were with us in Ireland, and they were so happy that they came back here to Las Vegas as well, because they get treated so well, and plus all the exposure that they get for this. But Paulie, obviously, I think that's a boxing thing. In boxing, if you're in camp, it's all about you. They very rarely train as teams, as part of a team. Whereas in MMA, this is something we're well used to. And I feel he just couldn't hack it, that it wasn't all about him. And that's what happened there.
Yeah. Without giving too much detail, because at the end of the day, Conor's getting ready for Floyd Mayweather, so I don't want to take the attention away from that fight. But how did the sparring session go? Because I had heard rumors that it was pretty one-sided, that Conor was definitely getting the better of him, and that's what Dana said, and now other people have said that, so I kind of feel justified in what I've heard. But as much as you can tell me, how did that sparring session go?
Honestly, Paulie just got absolutely destroyed. And, he started saying that, we leaked the pictures. But out of the decency, we actually weren't talking about the sparring at all, and we weren't saying much because we thought, okay, whatever happens in sparring stays in sparring. But he was the one that came out with all the interviews. He was doing 20 interviews on his way back from sparring session. So then we just released, there was like only 1 or 2 pictures that, we posted. That there wasn't really actually anything coming from our side. But then it just got to a point where he kept doing interviews and kept moaning and kept talking. So we had to give our side of the story. So we just we said it how it happened, and that video was released obviously by Dana of the sparring session, and there was a few pictures, and you can see for yourself what exactly happened there.
Yeah. Were you know Conor, probably better than anyone in terms of not only being his friend but also being his sparring partner. Have you been impressed with how much, Conor has done in terms of his boxing, whether it's been Paulie Malignaggi? I know he's been sparring with Deshaun Johnson, Tiernan Bradley, yourself. Have you been impressed by seeing Conor's transformation into a pure boxer over these last few months?
There was no surprise for me. I already knew he had those skills. I already knew he could easily be one of the best, to be the best boxer, in today's world, because, this is nothing new to him. Conor has started with boxing. He's boxing since he's 9 years old. He's got almost 50 amateur fights, boxing fights. This is nothing new to him. We spar professional boxers all the time. So, people feel that he's coming into a sport as an amateur, that, someone that's never boxed before. But the truth is, he's boxed plenty, and he's very, very good at it. So, to me, it has come as no surprise. I already knew that he would be very dominant in the boxing world. I've been suggesting that to him for a long time. Boxing is not an easy sport. It's a very difficult sport, but compared to MMA, it is a walk in the park. It's a lot easier on your body. So for many years, I was suggesting to Conor, why doesn't he take a boxing fight? It's easier on the body, it's easier prep, and, it's a lot of money. So why not do it? So here we are now.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, we had this conversation, Artem, before your last fight against Cub Swanson, so that's going back a couple of months when we talked. But I talked to you back then, and I told you my prediction for the fight. You told me your prediction for the fight. Now here we sit, literally days away from the fight. Has your opinion on how this fight's going to play out changed at all over these last few months, seeing what Conor's done, seeing the preparation he's had? I mean, has your prediction for this fight changed at all? I believe you said within 4 rounds, which is what Conor said. I predicted a 3rd round knockout. So has any of that changed since then as you sit here now, days away from the fight?
No, I actually predicted 6 rounds, and I think I'm going to stick to that. The reason being is obviously boxing is the rounds only 3 minutes long. They're not 5-minute rounds like in MMA, and those extra 2 minutes, it can be a lot in a round. It's a lot easier to survive the 3 minutes. So I feel that will allow Mayweather, and of course his experience, and his defensive work will allow him to survive till midway of the fight. But I don't see him getting out of the 6th round.
Yeah, and you feel it will be another. Do you feel it will be a knockout, or do you feel it'll be a TKO where he just puts him down multiple times?
No, I feel it most likely will be a knockout.
Conor has addressed this, and I'm curious on your side, Artem. He says he will stay and he'll do boxing and he'll do MMA. But in your opinion, do you think Conor, if he knocks out Floyd Mayweather, do you feel like his next fight will be boxing or MMA? If you were giving him advice, what would you say?
Well, to be honest, you see, one thing you have to remember about Conor, he's a very competitive guy. So he will be where the competition is. Right now, him beating Mayweather, this is something that very few people believe can happen. So that's motivation for him. This is what's motivating him to do this. He's such a competitive guy. You won't find a guy as competitive as him. Like, if you were to give $100 million to all the UFC fighters right now, very few of them would ever come back for another fight. But, Conor is different. He is not motivated by money. He's got different motives. So he will be back doing both MMA and boxing, I feel, depending where the challenge presents itself.
Go. Check it out.
You're listening to Fight Society with Damon Martin and Jeremy Lober.
Check it out.
Oh, we got us a little fight on the horizon. Oh, I'm excited, Dave.
There's no better walkout in sports than Conor walking out to this and then bleeding into Notorious B.I.G.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I love it.
Well,
did you see the tease for Conor's new Beats commercial?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
He released it last night. I think the commercial's coming out today. It's a little 15-second clip. It's like a singing version of Notorious B.I.G. Juicy.
Oh,
like it's someone singing the song, like, you know what I mean, like, the chorus. Technically it's the chorus from Forget Me Nots, the old '70s song, but they redid it for Juicy. Everyone knows it's Juicy.
This is of course Sinead O'Connor, and we wish her the most love and respect and speedy recovery. She's going through some mental issues. I don't really want to get into it.
I was
sad.
I was kind of bummed because they announced yesterday Demi Lovato is doing the national anthem.
What are you talking about? She's a piece of ass.
No, I'm not degrading her, but I'm saying like
You're not degrading her.
She's doing the national anthem, but they didn't announce anyone doing the Irish national anthem. I was like, come on, like why? Where's Bono? Where's like an Irish singer?
Ooh, that's two largely different scales there. Bono and Demi Lovato.
But Bono is a Conor guy. He supported Conor.
No, that's of course,
and he's
Irish,
countryman. Or some Irish singer, somebody. I mean, there's got to be more. Damien Rice is out there, the Pogue, somebody.
What are the guys from the Dropkick Murphys up to?
Get somebody like out there singing the Irish national anthem. You got Demi Lovato. I mean, granted, you didn't exactly swing for the fences on that one, but No,
but she's doing all the guys in the locker room, so it's like convenient. She's already there. No, I'm kidding. Demi,
what's funny
stop it.
So I tweeted it yesterday that she was doing the national anthem, and I swear to God, at least 10 responses on Twitter were, didn't she used to date Luke Rockhold?
No, we say she's doing the national anthem.
Well, because
half the guys in the back.
Demi Lovato is a pop star.
Disrespectful of me.
Demi Lovato is a pop star, so typically you wouldn't think of Demi Lovato crossing over to MMA in terms of like the same segment of fans. So people in MMA that know her from that story. They know her from dating Luke Rockhold.
And then the other story that was kind of funny during, I think it was 211. Was it 211? She was there and they sat her next to Cowboy.
Did they?
And everybody's like, yo, Cowboy's hitting it now. This is crazy.
Cowboy, but anyways, yeah.
But that's not true. They just they didn't go together. It's just like, when we go with Matt, they sit us in a special section.
Yeah, but anyways, so before we get out of here,
yes,
time for fight picks.
Oh boy.
Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor. Put your money where your mouth is, Loper. Who you picking and why?
I'm picking Conor McGregor, and here's why.
Bastard! You're stealing my thunder. Because I'm picking Conor McGregor too.
Well, here's what I'll say. I'm going to pick Floyd Mayweather. No, I'm going to go. All right, I'll tell you this. After round 6, I don't think Conor's going to have a whole lot of a chance. Round 6, round 7 is going to be that gatekeeper's area where Floyd is going to be in his glory. We think. I'm going to say Conor TKO round 4.
I'm with you on the Conor pick, and the reason I'm saying this is because when the fight's over, I don't want everyone coming back and saying you picked Floyd, but you said Conor had a chance.
But I really think Floyd's gonna win.
Because I've done this too many times. I remember it will haunt me forever. I remember when George St. Pierre fought Matt Serra the first time.
Yeah.
And me and my old co-host Jeff Kane from MMA Weekly, we were talking about this, and we were both like talking ourselves into picking Matt Serra. Like it was an upset.
Jealous when you bring him up.
And we were talking about Matt Serra, and we're like, Matt Serra's got a chance. He's got that big right hand, blah blah blah. But we didn't do it. At the end of the podcast, we both picked George St. Pierre.
Yeah.
And then of course Matt Serra upsets him, and we're like, why didn't we pull the trigger? Well, this time I'm pulling the trigger. I legitimately think Conor McGregor has a shot in this fight.
Yeah.
I think his aggression, I think his punching power, I think he's going to rough Floyd up a little bit, and I honestly believe, and this is playing a part in this, I think Floyd is underestimating Conor. I know.
Dude, I heard his training camp's kind of weak.
I know the narrative that's been painted as Floyd's not training and all this other stuff. He's eating Burger King and all this
but I heard
stuff.
for some other people that.
Yeah, I've heard from a couple sources that he wasn't exactly, killing the gym every day. And Conor's absolutely training. Conor's training to win this fight.
He's training to become once in a lifetime, man.
There's just something in the air. And maybe it's because, and listen, I've covered Conor far more than I've ever covered Floyd. The last time I covered Floyd was in 2015 when he fought Manny Pacquiao. And, I covered the Andre Berto fight too. So I'm not as in tune with Floyd as I am with Conor. So I'm a Conor believer. I've just stopped doubting the guy. And there's just something about this moment that just tells me that Conor's going to win. So I'm picking Conor McGregor by knockout, third round.
Third round.
This
is crazy, man.
So when the podcast is over a week from now, and we come back and we talk about this, because we're going to have Dan Hardy and Dominic Cruz on the podcast after the fight, no one can say that we didn't stick our necks out and say we're picking Conor. Now, if Floyd wins, then we both look like dumbasses. But for right now,
yeah, kind of.
Listen. I agree. Floyd Mayweather. If the fight goes past I think if the fight goes past round 5, it's going to be all Floyd. You know what I mean?
It's going to be tough. It's
going to be tough for Conor at that point. But Conor can't box him. Conor needs to fight him. Conor needs to go out there and rough him up and go after it. And he needs to counter Floyd. And if he can do all that, if he can fight his game plan and stick to it and not get intimidated by the moment, which Conor typically doesn't, I think he's got a chance to win this fight. Now, like I said, I could be completely wrong.
So many people have tried to rough him up.
Yeah.
It's not worked up to this point,
we'll
but see. 40 years old.
I'm sticking with Conor.
8-ounce gloves, which I really don't think makes a difference, to be honest with you. That was more of a... that's what I'm saying. It's like another talking point. I just feel like Malignaggi, the gloves, there's certain aspects to this, obviously, that plays more into the spectacle, but...
So you're saying 4th round TKO?
Yeah, but I got to stay true to our sport and, support ours like everybody else is in boxing. So, we'll see next week, man. Thanks so much for all the support. Good luck to Conor McGregor this weekend. Good luck to Floyd Mayweather. We'll definitely be watching. And as the world is watching, what will the decision or the results be? Can't wait for next week when we get back together to talk about it, man. Damon Martin, you can check him out each and every... you update that website pretty often, man. NerdCoreMovement.com. If you're into The Walking Dead, if you're into Game of Thrones, all of the great television.
Season finale of what a weekend. Mayweather McGregor on Saturday night, Game of Thrones season finale on Sunday night. You couldn't pick a better weekend to stay indoors.
That really is insane.
And then we're going to Boba Flex on Friday. That's another thing we're doing. So we got a full weekend. Yeah. I'm going to Lady Gaga tonight.
Oh, my wife thought that was last night.
No, it's tonight.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, I'm going to Lady Gaga tonight, and then I'm going to Boba Flex. Talk about a change in genre of music. Going to Boba Flex Friday night, album release party, and then Saturday, Mayweather McGregor, Sunday, Game of Thrones.
I've invited so many people to my house, it's ridiculous.
Coleman's coming over, right?
I think Coleman's coming. Adam DeSabato will be there. We're going to have
it's gonna be a party.
I'm going to Skype Matt Brown in.
It's gonna be awesome.
Hey, guys, check me out. Loper and Randy. Randy with an I. LOPERANDRANDI.com. We have a vlog channel on YouTube. You guys can check us out. My daily radio show. You can download the app and listen. And we will check you guys out next week, man. Later.
The red and black lumberjack with the hat to match. Remember rapping Duke? The hard. You never thought that hip hop would take it this far. Now I'm in the limelight cause I rhyme tight. Time to get paid, blow up like the World Trade.